Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Tuesday, October 29th, and this is episode 58 of Azeroth United, a special spooky episode. We got Halloween just around the corner, but no, seriously, we got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about a lot of news. We've got Season of Discovery news, Cataclysm Classic news. We've got a lot of modern WoW 11.0.5 news. We've got some Blizzard store news. So yeah, there's a lot going on in game right now. We've got the Hallow's End holiday that's going on right now. So we'll talk about all that, and yeah, we'll cover it as best that we can from A to Z. So pull up a chair, sit back, and relax. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if you have a particular topic that you'd like to hear discussed, please email us at azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. Also, if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That really helps out our distribution. And if you're inclined to do so, we'd be very grateful. If you're watching us on YouTube, maybe give us a like and a subscribe. That would be pretty awesome. One thing that I wanted to mention before we get into what happened last week in World of Warcraft. I do want to mention that we launched our Patreon a couple weeks ago. We do have our first patron, friend of the show, Judge Omni, is a new patron. So thank you, Judge Omni, for joining us. Yeah, it's really awesome. Like I said, I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate anybody that wants to throw me a couple bucks for buy me a cup of coffee or buy me a beer. That's awesome too. But really, I appreciate any support that I can get for the podcast, and it's good to know that people are enjoying it, and that's really what means a lot to me. So, thank you, Judge Omni, for joining us, and yeah, it's really cool. I'll have the link to the Patreon in the show notes, and it'll be in our link tree as well, so you can check that out. All right. Before we get to the news, we'll do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW, which honestly wasn't very much. I did I did raid. I ended up missing Thursday night. I had something come up in the IRL, so I couldn't make it to raid on Thursday, which kind of sucked. But what are you gonna do? And yeah, we did 4 out of 8 again. We got ration on at the last minute, but yeah, couldn't get any pulls on Brood Twister or Nexus Princess, so that's unfortunate. But that's how it goes. I did a few delves, but honestly, I just really didn't do a whole lot last week. I kept trying to get into the anniversary events. I went over there. I took some alts. I did some time walking, and you know what? I have to say something about the time walking, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But come on, Blizzard, you couldn't even give us the original maps. I know you have them because they're in Classic. So what are we doing here? Anyway, I'll get into all that later. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I started working on the warrior, the other warrior. I got 2 warriors. Actually, I have 4 warriors that are 70 plus. But I started working on another warrior, and I started trying to level a warlock, which is a little weird for me because I normally don't play a warlock or a rogue. Those are my 2 classes that I don't ever play. I level them to level cap, and then they just sit there. But I started playing the warlock, and I'll tell you right now, Demonology Warlock, it's chaotic, but it's kind of fun. I'm not really sure how the playstyle is supposed to work at max level, but I know that at low level, or 70, I think my warlock is 72. It's kind of fun. You've got your imps going in. You've got your big guy. I mean, it's a lot going on. But yeah, it's kind of fun. So I don't know. Maybe I'll level the warlock all the way up. I'm not sure yet. I finished Dragonflight with at least 1 of every class. Most classes I had 2 of, and I had a warlock that I had leveled to 70 and just abandoned. Actually, I think he was 64 or something. So I leveled him up to 70. And then I leveled another warlock through the pre-patch event at the last second. I leveled another warlock to 70. So go figure. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, warlock is a lot of fun. Yeah, this is a really good time to level alts. If that's something that you're into. I mean, we've got weeks of, one, the Timewalking gives you great XP. Two, we've got an XP boost from the anniversary event. Right now, we have the XP boost from the Hallow's End event. And then we've also got coming up next week the boost from starting Sunday morning, we've got the boost from the Dark Moon Fair. So there's a lot going on. I think there's a couple of other boosts that you can get, but you get the idea. It's a great time to level your alt if you are looking to get some alts going. For whatever reason, if you're bored with your main, you want something different to do. With the warband system, it's really great leveling alts because you don't have to worry about rep. You can just if you want to herb and mine your way to 80, you can do that. If you want to just run dungeons, you can do that. You don't have to worry about, I didn't do the storyline. I've got to get rep. This alt has 0 rep. No, you've got the rep that your main has. You've got storyline credit that your main's got. You might even have some Warbound on equipped gear or Warbound until equipped gear in your Warbound in your Warband bank that you can equip and really just kind of deck out your alt. So there's a lot of really good ways to level alts. It's still not perfect, and I have my complaints, but that's for another time. Right now, I feel like the game is in a pretty good state as far as having multiple characters and having that feel good. So, yeah, so there you go. Not much else. I didn't do any keys last week because every time I went to go do a key, something came up, and I was not able to do that. So, yeah, unfortunately, no keys for me last week, but definitely going to try and get some in this week. I really want to get KSM this season on my Death Knight, but I don't know. It looked like it's a lot harder than it was last season. Season 3. I keep saying last season as if season 4 doesn't exist, because in a lot of ways, to me, it didn't. But season 3, it was easy because you could basically do some 13s and 14s and you were good. And as long as you were doing 13s of Fortified and 13s of Tyrannical. Now, everything is one score. So you have to do like 4s and 5s, basically. Maybe throw in a couple of 6s to get up there. So I think the idea is that you should be able to run all 5s and time 5s, and then you get your KSM. I think that's the calculation that they've based it on. So yeah, there you go. So I guess I'll be trying to hit some 5s here coming up soon. Yeah, it's fun. So anyway, like I said, we have a ton of news today. It goes across every version of the game, and we are going to be talking about the Cataclysm Classic Rage of the Firelands patch that went live today, and then the Firelands raid that's going to go live next week. So, all right, we'll get just right into the news.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so we're just going to hit this right off the bat. That way, if you get irritated with what I say, you get pissed off at what I say, you can just, you're done. But hopefully, I have learned from my previous mistake, and I'm not going to create any any false arguments here or anything like that. I'm just going to state my opinions, and I'm going to kind of talk about how I feel about this. So last week, Blizzard released the new Traders Guilded Brutosaur Mount on the Blizzard store for $90 US. I think it's 80 euros in the EU version of the game, but it's a lot. Suffice to say, it's a lot of money. And to say that people were upset is an understatement. And to say that people were excited is also an understatement. I think that this mount really shows the difference between different WoW player bases. You have the player base who really hates microtransactions of any sort, whether they're cosmetic or not, doesn't matter. If it's giving somebody an advantage or not, they hate all microtransactions. I get that. There's some people like that. And then there's some people who hate microtransactions that maybe they don't care if it's cosmetic only, but if it gives you some sort of an advantage, they don't like that. And then there's people who don't care one way or the other. And if they have something that they like, they're going to buy it. I'm sure there's a lot more nuance to it than that, but I'm kind of looking at this from the standpoint of this is not a purely cosmetic item. This is a item that you can get in game that will give you an advantage in being able to farm and sell and make gold in World of Warcraft. It's not going to give you a power advantage, but it's definitely going to give you a monetary advantage. So you spend your real life money and you get the capability to make a lot of gold. Now, I feel like to say that that's the entirety of the argument is false, because you could right now spend your real life money and buy WoW tokens and get money. What this gives you is the advantage or the ability to take advantage of people by jumping on the market instantly. You're out farming, you're looking at prices, you see prices starting to drop, you see prices starting to go up, you can sell your wares that you've been farming on the spot. You don't have to go back to the capital, you don't have to stop farming, you can just post and get right back to farming. It's a little weird. Now, we do already have the Brutosaur Mount from Battle for Azeroth in the game. It was 5 million gold, and it was exclusive to the Battle for Azeroth expansion. Once BFA was over, you couldn't get it anymore, except it was on the black market auction house as well. And people were paying gold cap for it, 10 million gold for that mount. There was actually somebody who bid on, and I can't remember where I saw this. It might have been on a Discord or on Reddit. Somebody bid on a Brutosaur that morning, gold cap, 10 million gold. And then Blizzard announced the store mount. I felt bad for that person, whoever they are. I mean, first of all, that's a lot of gold. That's a lot of work and a lot of effort that you put in. And to go from the joy of, yes, I got a Brutosaur, to, no, I just wasted 8.5 million gold. That's rough. That is rough. Now, to put it into perspective, the original Brutosaur mount in Battle for Azeroth was, like I said, was 5 million gold. If you put that into today's terms, as far as the WoW token goes, that's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $400. Somebody did the calculation, and I didn't check the math, so it's a lot. It's a lot more than what we are paying for the current Brutosaur. The current Brutosaur, given the prices that are available right now, is somewhere in the neighborhood of around 1.5 million gold for $90. That's what if you spent, or if you cashed out 1.5 million gold into BattleNet balance, you'd get $90 of balance. So, yes, this is not the same as the Battle for Azeroth mount. It's a lot cheaper. It's more accessible to people. And instead of having a repair vendor on it, it has a mailbox, which is enormous. Having a mobile on-demand mailbox that you can get, that's a game changer for a lot of people, because not only can you sell your wares on the auction house, you can get things, you can buy things on the auction house, and then maybe even put them back out. If you're putting out auctions in the middle of Hallow Fall and you notice that the price of whatever is going on, I don't know. You understand. It gives you an advantage over the original Brutosaur mount, even, because the original Brutosaur mount, while it had an auction vendor, the repair vendor is kind of whatever. You already have, everybody already has a yak. It's 120,000 gold. Most people have that. So having a repair vendor is not really a big deal. But having a mailbox, that's pretty huge. So, a mailbox without a cooldown, it's nuts. So how do I really feel about this? I think I don't care. I mean, obviously I bought it. I did. I bought it. I'm not going to lie. I bought it, and I'm happy that I bought it. And to be perfectly honest, I've used it once since I bought it. I bought it Friday. So, it's not like I'm getting my money's worth yet, but I will. And I have it now because Blizzard has created this FOMO. Players are afraid of missing out on, and so they're going to want to spend the money. So I think one of the arguments that I've seen is, oh, Blizz is greedy. Blizz is greedy. They're selling us store mounts instead of fixing the game. And I understand that argument. I do. That's not quite how this works. The store mount and the class design snafu that came with patch 11.0.5 are two very different things. And a lot of people say that Blizzard is trying to distract the player base from the bad launch of 11.0.5 with a Brutosaur mount. And come on. I cannot believe for a minute that Blizzard was sitting there going, oh no, the players don't like the patch. Better release a Brutosaur mount to distract them. That requires a level of coordination that most companies are not capable of. These things are planned out in advance. They have the web page. They have all the copy written. They've got all the advertisements. They're ready to sell this thing months in advance. So they already knew they were releasing it at that time. Now, could they have bumped it up by a day or two? Yeah, sure. I guess. That's not outside the realm of possibility. But what does it matter in the end? Does that really affect you as a player if Blizzard releases a store mount to distract you from the bad launch of 11.0.5? They are trying to fix it. And we're going to get into all that later, but they are working on the class tuning. They're working on the anniversary event. There's a lot going in. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I understand people being frustrated with this mount. I do. And I understand people not really caring and buying it anyway. And I get both sides of it. And I won't belittle anyone's feelings if they say, I think that this is a terrible idea that Blizzard has done this. You're entitled to those feelings, and they're 100% valid for you. So don't ever accuse me of saying, oh, I don't care about people who whatever. No, I do care. And I'm listening, but I also feel the way that I feel. And I'm not going to be disingenuous and get up here like some content creators and say, oh, this is terrible. Blizzard has done this. Why? Blizzard is awful. And no, I'm sorry. That's not how I feel. So I'm going to be honest. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. That's unfortunate, but that's how I feel. And I can only be honest with you. So, all right, let's move on because that's a very deep topic that quite honestly needs a little bit more back and forth discussion and not just a me talking discussion. I'd love to get on and debate with people on the merit or pitfalls of store mounts and cosmetics and things like that. So hit me up if you want to talk about it. So, all right, let's jump to Hallow's End because Hallow's End it started on the 25th, which was what is that? Thursday, Friday, something like that. It's going to run till November 8th. Hallow's End is one of those holidays that, if you're bored in game and you're looking for something to do, it's a fun little thing to do. Most people don't do it the whole thing because they've already done it for whatever reason in previous years. They wanted the achievement. They were bored 3 years ago. And so they ran through and did all of the, got all the trick-or-treat buckets and whatnot. So, I like this holiday. I think it's cool, but I don't really do this anymore. This is not one that I'm really into as far as getting all the achievements and getting all the loot. But that's okay. All right, so the Epic Loot-filled Pumpkin now drops for characters as low as level 10. So if you want to run the Headless Horseman, you can do that at level 10. The Headless Horseman will drop the patched Harvest Golem transmog pieces. So if you want... So this is the same transmog as the one that's on the trading post. It's just a recolor of it, the Scarecrow transmog, which is really cool. I bought it. I really like the transmog. I might try and get this one. I don't know how much effort I want to put into it. I have, like I said before, I have 2 WoW accounts. One of them has the Headless Horseman's mount. One of them does not. So maybe on the account that does not have the Headless Horseman's mount, I'll try and get these transmog pieces. And I guess it can occasionally drop from the candy bucket. So that gives you some more incentive to do those. So if you want this transmog, it's really cool. Then definitely run the Headless Horseman and go get all the candy buckets. You can also purchase so there's 2 additional pieces to this transmog. There's the fist weapon, which is, again, it's a recolor of the one that's in the trading post right now. And then there's the back piece also, what's in the trading post. Actually, I think the back piece comes with the transmog in the trading post, but anyway. And then there's also the Prowler's Faded Headgear and Prowler's Faded Shoulder Cape. These are all new transmogs for 2024. So if you want to go check those out, I would go look at the vendor. I believe the vendors are in Stormwind and Orgrimmar. Should be just outside the city. So yeah, definitely go check that out. And again, if you want that XP buff, it's a 2-hour XP buff. All you have to do is light the flame and throw it at the Wicker Man or whatever, and you'll get the I think it's 10% XP and reputation buff. And then obviously they're going to add in the new stuff for Khazalgar. So there's a new achievement, Tricks and Treats of Khazalgar. And then there's 18 new candy buckets scattered throughout the Khazalgar area. So if you want to check all that out, I would definitely go do that. Like I said, Hallow's End is it's a good holiday. It's fun, but it's a little contentious because of the Headless Horseman mount and the way that Blizzard has changed those mounts. And let's just a reminder: the Headless Horseman fight itself, there is a hard mode for it now, but it is a personal hard mode. So you can get any number of buffs on you that make it harder. Actually, I guess they're debuffs. They make it harder throughout the fight. If you lose too many of the debuffs, then you just don't get to do hard mode, but you can still finish the fight. It's actually really ingenious the way that they've done it, because if you're going in with a group of randos and somebody decides, oh, let's do hard mode, you might not want to do that. But since it's personal hard mode, it's like, go for it, dude. Whatever floats your boat, man. So yeah, Headless Horseman. So it just gives you extra chance for loot. So yeah, the Headless Horseman fight is always really fun, and I would definitely go check that out. All right, let's jump into Classic, because I want to get this up first before we jump into the 11.05 hot fixes that are coming, or I guess they're in now. They've hit the game. They should have hit the game now. So, Season of Discovery Phase 6, which is the Encourage patch, I guess, will launch November 21st. So they're just moving this right along. I'm really kind of curious to see what they end up doing with Season of Discovery, but that's a discussion for later. So here's how this is going to work. November 12th, which is before the launch, the Scepter of the Shifting Sands questline will open up on the 12th with Reset. So you can start working on that questline before the war effort starts. On November 21st, when the phase actually launches, the war effort will begin at 1 p.m. PST globally. On November 29th, the war effort will end. So they're just going to give it a week, and then it's done. Then December 4th, the war heralding the arrival of Anubisath and the Karaji warriors begins. So the Shifting Sands War, the second Shifting Sands War. And then on December 6th, the Temple of Anchorage, Ruins of Anchorage, and the Nightmare Grove opens. So I'm guessing this is the Green Dragons thing. So yeah, not a lot of details here that I saw. I just grabbed this real quick before I started recording. So pretty cool that Season of Discovery is getting no mention here of new runes. So I'm wondering if this is just they're tired of balancing runes or what. So yeah, AQ coming to Season of Discovery. That should be pretty interesting. Like I've said before, AQ is where my interest in Classic dies. Once you get to AQ, I'm like, I don't really care anymore. Like, I've done AQ. I've done it a bunch of times, and it's fine. But I'm less interested in it because once you hit AQ, Molten Core, Upper Blackrock Spire, Onyxia's Lair, all those things become far less relevant. Even Blackwing Lair to some degree becomes a lot less relevant. So, you know, AQ is kind of like, I don't know. To me, it's like the end of innocence. That's the fun. The fun is now over. But you know, a lot of people like AQ, I'm sure. And you know, I make this joke every time, but I'm sure it'll have a lot of bugs when it launches. Okay. All right. Let's jump into Modern WoW. Well, before I go, let's just as a mention, reminder that the Cataclysm Classic, the Rage of the Firelands patch is going live today, and then the Firelands raid will go live on next Thursday, I believe it is. So, but we'll get into all that later. All right, in Modern WoW, oh boy, there was a lot. First of all, as I mentioned before, people were kind of upset about the anniversary patch and how it seemed like Blizzard didn't really do a good job of QAing this patch. And I agree. I think they didn't. And I think a lot of it has to do, and I mentioned this last week when I talked about all the class changes that were coming in or that were going into the game. It's really hard now to balance all of these classes, all of these specs, all of these hero talents. That's a lot. And I think Blizzard has created a really big problem for themselves that maybe they didn't even realize was this big of a problem when they started. They're doing all of these little nickel and dime nerfs or buffs to try to even out the classes. And I get that, making some classes better at single target than they were, making some classes worse at AoE than they were. That's something that I think it's really hard to get it just right. And it's obvious from this. They did a whole patch of class tuning last week, and now we've got a whole nother slew of class tuning. Not every class, but most. So just real quick, I'm going to run down through this. There's a lot of detail that Wowhead has gone into, and I've kind of made fun of Wowhead for their data mining and for all of the strife that they create for the community. But honestly, they've done a lot of good work for this. And so I've got to hand it to them. This is actually really good stuff that they've done. The theory crafting that they've done, the testing, they put a lot of work into this. You know what? Props, Wowhead. Good job. I'm actually really pleased with this. I think this is good. And I think it's good for the player base to kind of get an idea of, oh, okay, here's what they're doing. So there's specific numbers that Wowhead is giving, and their guesses or opinions, however you want to phrase that. So I don't really think that I'm going to get into the numbers specifically, but what they're doing is they're kind of identifying which classes are going to get buffed and which classes are going to get nerfed. So, all right, start with Blood DK is going to get a buff. They're saying about a 4% buff, maybe a little bit more if you're Sand Lane. Druids, balanced druids are going to get a slight buff, just a little one, just little kiss of a buff. And then restoration druids, they've made some changes, and Wowhead is calling this neutral, which I guess because the playstyle is still terrible. So, I guess Blizzard's going to have to do a lot of work on resto druids, and I really don't think they're going to be viable until 11.1. So. My Resto Druid will stay Guardian. Hunters, nerfs across the board. Beast Mastery and Marksmanship both got nerfed. And really it was the AoE. They modified the way the AoE was working because what was happening is that people were using AoE attacks in single target because of the way that the hero talents were buffing it. So whatever. My Hunter's level 70 and probably going to stay that way for a while. Monks, they gave Mistweavers a nice big buff. Single target healing buff. It looks like it's more of the fist weaving is going to get buffed than just the casting, which I think is better because I like fist weaving a lot more. So that works for me. So maybe I'll level up my monk next. Who knows? Paladins. So holy paladins are going to get a nerf where they are going to have less mana available because their spells are going to cost more. So basically, it's just they're going to go through more mana. So it's they're getting a resource nerf essentially is what it is. So they're not reducing their healing numbers, but they're going to run out of mana a lot faster, which kind of sucks, honestly. And to me, that's kind of I guess Blizzard is trying to force the Word of Glory or whatever it's called. And I forget the name of Word of Glory. They changed it for Holy Paladins, but then oh man, I can't remember the Holy Paladin spells. Anyway, they're the Holy Power healing spells. They're trying to draw the focus to that, I guess. So for priests, slight buffs for discipline and shadow priests. I mean, it's tough. And the discipline priests, again, they're struggling with the hero. One of the hero talents is just outperforming. Oracle is just not really living up to it. So I guess we'll see where that goes. Rogues, Assassination got a little bit of a nerf. Wowhead is calling it a 2% nerf, so I don't know if that's a slight nerf or what you want to call that, but yeah. Shaman, this is the big one. Okay, so Elemental Shaman is getting a nerf, plus, and Blizzard is calling this a 10% nerf, or I'm sorry, Wowhead is calling this a 10% nerf. Plus the Ascendance bug, which is causing Ascendance to do damage or to increase damage incorrectly. So if Blizzard fixes that as well, then there's going to be a Wowhead's calling us a 19% buff. Although I did see that Blizzard rolled back some of the nerfs to Elemental Shaman, so we'll see. And again, this is all just opinion. I do think they're still getting slightly nerfed, but I don't know exactly to what degree. Same thing for Enhancement Shaman. Restoration Shaman, no change to healing, but they are getting a damage buff. So if that's important to you, that you're doing a lot of damage as a Resto Shaman, then there you go. And then finally, to round it out, Warlocks and Warriors are both getting nice fat little buffs, mostly to Arms and Destruction, but also Fury and Demo Affliction, a little bit of a buff too. And then Prot Warriors, very, very slight adjustment there. So that's the class tuning. Like I said, there's a lot that goes into this behind the scenes from what Blizzard is doing and then what Wowhead is interpreting. And at the end of the day, go play your class because none of this really matters unless you're doing high keys or mythic raid, maybe some heroic raiding, but ultimately I don't think it really matters. As long as you're not doing, I don't know, I'd say like once you hit like a 10, 8 to 10 range of mythic plus, people start to care. Maybe a 7 because of the Challenger's Peril affix, and we'll get into that next. But it's when people start to really care about who they're bringing into their pug. If you have a standard group, you can use any class you want as long as you're coordinated, honestly, even up through 12 and beyond. Because I've seen people running with Resto Druids and with Prot Paladins before the buffs that they got last week. You can do whatever you want as long as you have a coordinated group. But when you're doing a pug, people are going to be a lot more discerning when they're like, well, this class doesn't perform as well in AoE, or this class doesn't perform as well. They don't have good survivability or whatever it is. They don't have good throughput. That's just the reality of it. And unfortunately, one class is always going to have the lowest damage, the lowest healing, the lowest survivability. And that's just how it is. You can't have everybody be equal across the board. Somebody has to be low. The lowest. Now it might be tiny degrees of the lowest, but it's still going to be the lowest. And that's just the way that game design works. So, all right. And I will have the links to the Wowhead article discussing all of this in the show notes. So you can go and look for yourself if you're curious, if you want to get a little bit more of the explanations behind the different buffs and nerfs. It'll all be there for you. All right. Let's talk about the Mythic Plus affix change. So the Challenger's Peril, which is the affix that gives you a 15-second death penalty instead of a 5-second death penalty at +7, they're changing it to give you also 90 seconds added to the timer. So if your timer was 32 minutes, it'll now be 33 minutes and 30 seconds. I don't understand this affix. I don't see the point of it, and I don't know who this is for. I don't know who asked for this. I don't know why we're doing this. We don't need this affix at all. It doesn't provide any value to the game. I guess from the standpoint of, it's upping the stakes and you can't fail. Don't die. This is really important now. I get that, but I don't think anybody is like, ooh, this is so fun, where it's so dangerous because we're on a +7. Everybody just hates it because if you have a wipe, you've pretty much bricked your key. So you got to go in there and not wipe. That's an overstatement, or that's an oversimplification. You can wipe and recover and still time your key. You're not going to +3 it if you wipe. And if you wipe twice, you're pretty much guaranteed to not time your key, unless you have a stellar group. And if you're wiping twice on a +7, you don't have a stellar group. Unless like the discipline priest disconnected or something. So, So what Blizzard said is, we wish for Challenger's Peril to emphasize precise play and place a greater risk on players' decisions as they progress through the higher keystone levels. With this goal in mind, we want to give players a bit more breathing room for those decisions by adding a bonus to Challenger's Peril while maintaining the penalty aspect of the affix. So this is that kiss curse thing that they've been trying to get, that they haven't managed to get quite right just yet, but they're getting there and they're getting better at it. So I'll give them props for trying to fix this, but at the end of the day, who is this for? Honestly. Oh boy. Okay, Finally, for raid, we've got heroic Queen Ansurek nerfs. So just a few on here. And these are just for heroic difficulty. It says reduce the number of players targeted by web blades to 3 on heroic difficulty, was 4. In phase 1, the first cast of Silken Tomb in the final cycle has been removed on heroic. The timing of the first web blades cast has been adjusted to accommodate the removal of the preceding Silken Tomb in the final cycle. And Grasping Silk periodic damage reduced by 25%. And then in phase 2, Gloom Blast damage reduced by 15%. So a little bit of damage reduction and a slight change in the mechanics. Not really huge, but as I've said before, if you have a guild they're pushing it and they're getting there, but they keep messing up the mechanics and it's just not quite right, this might help push them over the edge. So I would expect to see more nerfs in the next few weeks as Blizzard tries to get more teams to AOTC and Cutting Edge. So, yeah, pretty cool. All right. Timewalking dungeons have been buffed. If you were running the Timewalking dungeons, the Dead Mines and Stratholme and all this, and you were like, these are super easy, what the heck is going on? Blizzard agrees. They're too easy. So what they've said is they are adjusting all dungeon enemy health and damage to better scale with player power. Our intention is for these dungeons for their difficulty to fall between the difficulty of a normal and heroic dungeon at level 80. So if a normal dungeon is 1 difficulty and a heroic dungeon is 10, maybe they want these to be like a 5. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me why you wouldn't just try to emulate heroic dungeons with these dungeons or emulate normal dungeons. I would rather that they try to emulate heroic dungeons and then give drops that are equivalent to heroic dungeon drops, because the drops from the Timewalking dungeons are not good. So anyway, that's what they're trying to do. So they say our goal with changes like this is to provide a fairer, engaging challenge for players while keeping to the principle that better gear makes you more powerful. We'll continue to monitor dungeon design to ensure Timewalking presents a satisfying level of challenge for all players. So I guess what's happening is as you scale up in your item level, the dungeons are going to get harder. So they don't want somebody to come in and be item level 626 and overpowered and just wipe everything out. So, and honestly, if you're 626, why are you running Timewalking? What are you going to get out of it? I think you're getting like a piece of champion gear if you run 5 of them. So honestly, what are you getting out of it? I guess you're getting the anniversary token. So, right. Okay. Speaking of anniversary tokens, the bronze celebration tokens have been buffed. So, this one's a sensitive topic for a lot of people because Blizzard have done this time and time again where they release content and the currency is really hard to get and players complain. And then a couple of weeks in or a month in or whatever, at some point in the process, they go, you know what, you're right. We're going to buff the currency acquisition, or we're going to increase the rate at which you earn currency to make it easier to get. We're not going to reduce the cost of anything that you spend the currency on, but we're going to make it easier for you to get. They did this in Mop Remix. They did this in Plunderstorm. They did it with the pre-patch event. The pre-expansion event at the end of Dragonflight. They've done this a lot recently, and they're doing it again here. And I feel like there's 2 ways to look at it, I see. Maybe there's more. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. There's 2 ways to look at it, in my opinion, which are, 1, Blizzard is genuinely trying to make content that they feel is good, and they are missing the mark over and over again and not really listening to player feedback because they go, well, yes, of course players want more currency, but we're trying to smooth this out and we're trying to give players a good experience and save them from themselves and also to make sure that players feel like they have content for enough length of time. The other one is that Blizzard is intentionally making this currency difficult to get so that when players complain, they can say, okay, here you go. It's easier to get. Because if Blizzard said, okay, here's the currency acquisition, and they made it what it is now, players would complain, and then they'd have to make it even easier to get the currency down the road. So I feel like it's always easier to relax restrictions than it is to tighten them up. So if you go, oh, well, we made the currency too easy to get, now we have to reduce the amount of currency that people are earning, players really hate that. But if you say, you know what, you're right, we weren't giving you enough currency, here's a little bit more. Okay, players are at least going to be happy that you gave them more currency. The problem is they've done this so many times that players are like, are you not listening to our feedback? We're telling you it's not enough. And you are saying, yes, it is. And then it launches, and then you go, oh, you know what, you're right, it's not enough. And then they change it. And people are just not happy with this. So I don't know. Does it make it any more fun? No. I think that whoever designed the currency system for this anniversary event really doesn't understand the way WoW players work. Because what's happening is players are being expected to do their normal routine, which I get that. So just go do your normal thing and you'll earn the currency. That's fine. But the problem is, if you are really wanting to get your currency and because you want to buy the transmog, the tier 2 transmog, or some of the other pets or mounts that you can get, you're going to want to try and maximize the amount of currency you're getting, which is going to cause people to do more content than they want to do, which is going to cause them to burn out. I saw this on Reddit, and I think that I agree. I think that they should have made this currency more like Valor Stones, where every content you do gives you a little bit of currency, no matter what it is. You just get a little bit here and a little bit there. Oh, you just did a world quest? Here's some currency. Oh, you just did a delve? Here's some currency. Instead of, oh, you've got to complete a quest and then you get currency as a reward. I don't think that works as well. I think giving us some like whatever the Valor Stones we get the same amount of this currency, and then just increase the value so that, you know, whatever your acquisition rate that Blizzard wants you to be able to get these transmogs at, just make it match that. I think that would have been better, but, you know, I'm not a game designer, so I don't really know. Yeah, what they say is, our goal has been that players should and can get all the tokens they need during the event by playing content they enjoy. We hope that this increase will help some players get more tokens naturally by engaging with their regular content and the 20th activities that interest them the most. This should open repeat tokens faster and allow players to continue with their preferred content type, be it PvP with Korok's Revenge, raiding with Blackrock Depths, dungeons with classic Timewalking, or outdoor-style content, world bosses, or the Codex of Chromie. So here's what we've got. Updated Bronze Celebration tokens. The Dornogal weekly quests, World Soul, Archive, the Delve quests, those will give you 10 tokens now. The bonus holiday quests like Timewalking, the World Quest, the Arena event, the Battleground bonus event, the Dungeon event, the Delve event, those will give you 10 tokens. So you get 10 a week for that quest. The Zone Activity Weeklies, Awakening the Machine, Spread the Light, Snuffling, Ashkahet packs, the Theater Troupe, those will give you 8 each. The Special Assignment World Quests, those will give you 8 each, up to 2 per week. So you only get 16 from doing the Special Assignment World Quests. But those are really easy to do. Most of them are really easy to do. The 11.0 World Boss, whichever zone that's located in, that will give you 8 tokens. Killing Queen Ansurek, and it doesn't specify a difficulty, so I'm assuming you can do this on LFR, will give you 15 tokens. So you should be killing Queen Ansurek at least on LFR every week, according to this. Conquest Rated PvP Weekly will give you 15 tokens. And Honor, War Mode, and Brawl Weeklies will give you 8 tokens each. It's a lot of content, and it's a lot of tokens. I'm not upset with how they've increased this, and I feel like as long as you are playing WoW, you should be getting enough tokens to get the transmog and the items you want. I just don't like that it was done in this way, because I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, it's just odd. It's odd that this is how Blizzard decides to do these things. I feel like it's not a good way for them to present things that are supposed to be fun and enjoyable, like Plunderstorm. That was supposed to be fun. And it got a lot more fun once they increased the amount of reputation that you were getting. Same thing with Mop Remix. Once they changed Mop Remix and you could get more bronze, whoo, baby, that was fun. But in the beginning, it was a little rough, which is why people ended up doing things like frog farming. So, I don't know. I guess this is a net gain, but I hope that Blizzard at some point stops and looks at this and says, maybe we should learn a lesson from these things and do a better job of implementing these sorts of events with their currencies, because Blizzard is always going to have a new currency in whatever it is. Implement the currency in a way that makes sense to the player base and not that a way that makes sense to a developer. You need player representation on a development team. You have to have it. And so you need somebody who's not a designer, who's not a developer, who just sits there and says, if I was doing this, I would hate it. You need to fix this and make it more enjoyable. Don't just hand me everything. Obviously, you want people to work for things, but don't make them work that much. This is a game, not a job. So, yeah, there you go. Oh boy. Like I said, there's a lot of news, a lot to get through, but we got through it. And we're going to go now. We're going to talk about the Cataclysm Classic launch that's happening today, and then the Firelands raid that's launching next week. And then I do want to do a little bit of discussion about Classic and kind of what the future of Classic holds. I know we had this conversation before, but things are a little bit in a different place now. So we'll get into that right now.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
All right, so let's talk about the Firelands that's coming to Cataclysm Classic. I know that not everybody that listens to this podcast is a big fan of Classic, but it is an interesting topic that I like to occasionally dive into. And maybe dive isn't the right word. We're going to kind of do a very cursory overview. I don't want to get into too much depth about the Firelands just because there's honestly not a lot of depth to it. At its core, you have the Deathwing sunders the world, and during that time, the Firelord Ragnaros decides he's going to try to take advantage of that and seize Mount Hyjal for purposes. And so Ragnaros, obviously one of the classic bosses in World of Warcraft. It was the first raid boss the first final raid boss that most people killed. That was like the original Race to World First, trying to kill Ragnaros in Molten Core. So, is the Firelands version of Ragnaros the version that most people remember? Maybe not. It's still a really good fight, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as iconic as that original Too Soon Executus from Molten Core. So the Firelands raid itself is it's one of the better raids from the early Classic era. You've got 7 bosses: Beth Talak, which is the giant spider; Lord Rhyolith, which is a giant molten giant that you have to drive his legs and turn him in different directions by attacking different legs. It's a really cool fight. You've got Alice Razor, who's the giant phoenix. You've got Shanix, who's the hunter with his 2 pets, and he's a flame walker. And you've just it's like he's the first boss that you have to kill. You've got Balrock, who's guarding the gates to Ragnaros. You've got Major Domo Staghelm, who's a traitor to the Night Elves, who is the leader of the Druids of the Flame. The Druids of the Flame play a big role in this patch, as I'm sure you've seen. And it's people didn't like Staghelm back in vanilla. They were like, this guy's a dick. What he's dismissing me? Tyrande has no idea how to lead our people. Come on, dude. What are you doing? He's just, he's not a nice guy. And so having him show up as a raid boss, I think, was kind of cathartic for a lot of people, because it's like, ooh, we get to kill this guy? Awesome. So Staghelm is an interesting figure, and I'll talk about his lore a little bit. Staghelm led the Night Elves during the War of the Shifting Sands. He was not a particularly good general, leading the Night Elves to defeat after defeat against the Karaji. And it wasn't until the dragons showed up to help them that the tide was turned against the Karaji onslaught. So Yeah, -1 point for Staghelm there. Staghelm is the one who planted the branch for Teldrassil, trying to grow another world tree to get the Night Elves their immortality back. So he didn't like the fact that the Night Elves sacrificed their immortality to save the planet. And he was salty about this, and so he decided he was going to grow a new world tree. Well, I'll just grow my own world tree then. So he grew his own world tree, but because it didn't get the blessing of the dragon aspects, it became corrupted, which is why you have all these Grelkins and imps and all sorts of satyrs and demons and all sorts of things on Teldrassil, because the island itself became corrupted, or the world tree became corrupted. So Staghelm, not particularly great. He hates Tyrande. He thinks she's terrible. He hates Malfurion. He thinks he should be leading the druids. He's just a really bad guy. He's one of those characters that if you were watching a movie and you saw him, you'd be like, oh, he's going to be a villain. Easily, he's going to be a villain at the end of the movie. And he is. He becomes a villain, and we get to kill him. So that's a really fun fight. It's really cool because that was where we got the Fire Cat feral druid form, which was really fun. It's really cool because he likes to jump around and shapeshift, and I mean, it's just a really interesting fight. I really like that one. And then, of course, you have the Ragnaros fight, and the Ragnaros fight is I don't know. I like the one in Molten Core. I feel like Molten Core one was designed for 40 people, and this one is obviously designed, you have to be able to do it 10 or 25. So, he hits his hammer down, and the ads come in. If the ads get to the hammer, then you use the wipe. And I don't know. It's fine. I don't have a problem with the fight. It's just not my favorite. And I think that for a raid that is remembered so fondly, the way that Firelands is remembered, a lot of people forget that the Ragnaros fight, not really that great. Not that great as a final boss fight. Ragnaros himself is cool, and in Heroic, he gets out of the pool of lava, and you see him walking around. He's got these little chicken legs, and it's really fun. But yeah, Ragnaros himself, not really great. So yeah, I mean that's fine. That's it's what it is. So this Firelands, and I've said this before, Firelands is kind of like the last good raid until Throne of Thunder. Because next up you've got Dragon Soul, and then you've got the 3 Mists of Pandaria intro raids, the Heart of Fear, the Mogushan Vaults, and or Mogushan Palace. I forget which one is which. It's Mogushan Palace. And then the Terrors of Endless Springs. Those raids were all fine. I don't really feel like any of them was super memorable. I think Throne of Thunder is the one that a lot of people were like, ooh, yeah, that one was good. Because it was a really good raid. And then we don't get another one until Blackrock Foundry. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So the Firelands is now available, or will be available next week. And here's the thing with Classic, Blizzard is able to go back and kind of change some things and make things a little bit more accessible, modify things. And I mentioned last week that they are changing the acquisition or increasing the acquisition for Terracosta, the Dragon's Rest, so that it's a caster legendary that you can get from the Firelands. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail on it because, quite honestly, everybody already knows the details about Terracosta. If you don't, there's actually some really cool videos that Noble has done and a couple of other people have done on this topic. It requires you to go back to Northrend and a couple of other things. But I mean, it's just it's an interesting quest line. I've never done the quest line personally, and quite honestly, that's not something that I don't play enough casters to want to do a caster legendary quest line. That's just not for me. So yeah, that's the Firelands. And so, like I said, I wanted to talk about Firelands, but the bigger thing that I wanted to talk about is we are at a true crossroads here for Classic. And I think that the most recent anniversary event with the reintroduction of the 6 Classic dungeons in Timewalking and the Blackrock Depths raid has kind of given some idea of, and plus what's going on with Season of Discovery, all of that combined, mop remix. What is Blizzard cooking for for Classic? What are they doing? Because honestly, it doesn't really look like they're just gonna put their head down and go, okay, next is Mists of Pandaria Classic, and that's what we're gonna do, and then next is they're doing something. And I wanted to kind of speculate on this for a little bit here because, first of all, if you just blindly go into Mists of Pandaria Classic, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that means you got to hit Warlords of Draenor Classic. And that, I cannot imagine, if Firelands, or I'm sorry, if Cataclysm is already losing their engagement, I mean, it's pretty low. Not quite as low as the end of Wrath of the Lich King was, but it's getting pretty low. How many players are you going to lose throughout the course of Mists of Pandaria and into Warlords of Draenor before you even get to Legion? And then what do you do? I still cannot fathom the idea of Battle for Azeroth Classic. I could see Legion Classic. I could also see Blizzard ending Classic at Legion and then starting over. I could see Blizzard saying, all right, Legion era servers are now here. Something like that. Sure, I could see that. You can go to your class order hall, you can get all your mounts, you can do all your transmog. People would probably really love that. More than they would have loved a Wrath of the Lich King Classic or era service. Because let's be honest, in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, people realized, oh, there wasn't really that much, it wasn't that great. I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was really good. I think a lot of people realized that there's not that much to do outside of raid. The PvP stuff was okay. Wrath of the Lich King changed the game, and it gave us the ability to level an army of alts that we hadn't had before. And I think that's one of the things that people remember very fondly of Wrath of the Lich King. Let us fight the Lich King. Gave us that opportunity. Give us Oldwire, which is one of the best raids we've ever had. Icecrown Citadel, also one of the best raids. So yeah, it's remembered very fondly. But as a ongoing server that you can just jump on and do stuff, that's limited. It's limited, just like Burning Crusade is limited. Classic era has advantages because that initial 1 to 60 leveling experience is so special and so unique. They'll never get that again. But if you do a Legion era server that is permanent, and you let players get all the way to Legion, and then they can keep their characters there, and it just continues on Legion forever, I think people could get behind that. I think people could accept that as, all right, my character is going to retire in Legion. I think a lot of people would really like that. Is that what Blizzard's going to do? Who knows? They haven't given us any hint as to what they are planning. So could we see a split like we did with when Classic or Vanilla went into Burning Crusade, where they say, okay, you can either keep your character in Legion or you can move your character into Battle for Azeroth. I think some people would probably take the Battle for Azeroth route, but at that point, what is your goal? What is your goal to get to Shadowlands Classic, Dragonflight Classic? I mean, at that point, we'll probably be at the end of the last Titan, so then you're going to do War Within Classic. That doesn't sound appealing to me. Maybe some people are really interested in following the original adventure all the way through. But I think a lot of people have kind of bailed on Cataclysm because it doesn't really capture the spirit of Classic, as we were all afraid that it wouldn't. A lot of people have moved over to Season of Discovery, and they're awaiting what the big announcement is going to be. So for those of you who haven't seen the news, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but I didn't, Blizzard is doing a Warcraft 30, I don't know if it's a stream or if they're going to do a show or if it's just I don't know exactly what they're doing. If it's going to be like kind of like a BlizzCon type thing. But basically it's going to be a celebration of Warcraft and the 30th anniversary of Warcraft. There's rumors about a Warcraft 3 re-release. Maybe they're going to fix some of the problems that happened in Reforged. There's rumors about new Classic era servers, new hardcore servers. People have talked about maybe Burning Crusade era servers. People have talked about Wrath of the Lich King, just era servers for all the different eras of WoW. People have talked about maybe doing more remix servers. Everybody's got a rumor. Everybody's got an idea of what they think this announcement is going to be. I personally think that what Blizzard could do to really add to the longevity of the game is make the time walking that they've been doing in retail, make it actually something useful, but make it something that can be done almost Plunderstorm style, where you maybe go onto a time walking realm and you do the dungeons. Maybe all of the dungeons are available in that time walking. Maybe you gain reputation, maybe you get transmog. I don't know, but I think there's an opportunity there for Blizzard to say, hey, classic and retail players can come together and do content together. It's something that's never been possible. The closest we ever got to that was Plunderstorm and Remix, where you had players that were from classic make a character on retail in Remix, and in Plunderstorm you just had your character there. No matter what you played, you had your Plunderstorm character. So I could see that being something that Blizzard could potentially do. I mean, they've already created the game mode. It doesn't have to be a battle royale. It can be where you go in and you do dungeons. Maybe it's even a bronze dragon themed server that you can get on, and it's like, oh, this week we're doing Wrath of Lich King dungeons. Woohoo, crummy. Or whatever. I don't know, something that gives players the ability to go and do those old dungeons, and then at the end of whatever that week or that month or whatever, however long it is that this is available, then you get the option to, that server then closes, and you get the option to take your character and move them to whatever your classic era server is. Maybe you want to move them to, it was Wrath of Lich King, so you can move them to Wrath Classic, or you can move them to Modern WoW. There's possibilities that we could do if we're going to continue on with all of these different iterations of classic and all these different iterations of WoW. Why not give players the ability to experience it together? Classic and modern WoW players together on the same realm. I know there's a lot of technical issues that I'm not thinking of, and I'm just kind of glossing over some things here, and that's fine. I don't need to go into details. I'm the idea man here. I'm giving Blizzard some suggestions, or I'm trying to just predict what I think could happen or what I wish would happen. Do I honestly think this is going to happen? No, of course not. It's never going to be that fantastical. They'll do something more grounded in reality, like there will be a maybe do another remix server. I could see that being a reality. I could see them doing a fresh vanilla servers, like a reset on classic. All right, we're all starting back at level 1 in Northshire Abbey or Valley of Trials. I forget what it is. Duratar. Maybe that's what we'll get. Maybe we'll get. I don't know. There's so many different ways that Blizzard can go with this that are going to be better than. Okay, guys, Warlords of Draenor Classic. Hello, anyone? I mean, if you remember, Warlords of Draenor, that BlizzCon is when they asked the question about classic era or classic servers. And J. Allen Brack's famous "You think you do, but you don't." Obviously, the player base has proven otherwise, but he made a valid point, which is at the end of the day, like, what do you actually want? How do you know what you want to do? We're providing you with this really cool game, and how do you know what you want to do? Well, the players showed that they had the true, honest desire to get into and do classic, and so Blizzard provided that. But where's it going to go? How is the player base going to move past Cataclysm? Because I don't understand why Blizzard would release Mists of Pandaria Remix and then the next year release Mists of Pandaria Classic. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make any sense to me at all. They just burned all of that nostalgia a few months ago. What is it, October? This was 5 months ago. They burned all of that nostalgia with MoP Remix. So why would they have done that unless their plan was to not move on to Mists of Pandaria Classic? Maybe they will announce it. Maybe that's just the easy win for them. They already have all of the content there. All you have to do is put the servers up and, hire 10 people to run it. Okay, fine. Maybe that's the case. And it keeps, 500,000 people subscribed to World of Warcraft who wouldn't play Modern WoW. Okay, that's fine. Go for it. But I don't know. I don't think that that's the best route to go. I really don't. As far as Modern WoW, I'm assuming we're going to get some sort of announcement on patch 11.0.7. The PTR for that is already on the launcher, although you can't connect to it yet. I'm assuming we're going to have to wait until after this announcement before we can get on there. And then maybe some 11.1 news as well. But we'll get into some speculation on that maybe next week. So I don't know. I'm hoping that Blizzard has a good idea of what they want to do going forward, and they're not actually flying by the seat of their pants, because a lot of times it looks like they're flying by the seat of their pants. So, and then the final thing that I wanted to mention, which I almost forgot, was there could be a Classic Plus announcement. And I think that's actually pretty likely, given that they've already stated that Season of Discovery is basically a trial run for Classic Plus and what's going to work and what's not going to work. And we're going to get a Classic Plus. So they've essentially confirmed it without officially confirming it. So I think we'll get that confirmation here on the 11th or on the November 13th announcement. I'm pretty sure that's going to be in the cards. Now, what that's going to look like, I don't know. I just saw a video with Nixium, who, if you don't know who Nixium is, he's a YouTuber. He's been around for a long time. He's done a lot of WoW content. He did a Turtle WoW sponsored video talking about Turtle WoW and how much better it is than Classic and that better it is than Season of Discovery. And I thought, wow, that's, it's one thing to say, hey, I tried out Turtle WoW and it's pretty cool. No, he's invested in it and they're paying him to do that video. And I thought that's unfortunate, because I think a lot of people look up to him, and to suggest that as an option, I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie, I did go onto a private server for a while. I was on Nostalgius and I tried that out, and it just wasn't for me. But to say, well, Blizzard isn't doing Classic right, or isn't doing Classic Plus correctly, therefore I have the right to go onto Turtle WoW or some other private server, that logic doesn't track for me. But you know what? You do you. And at the end of the day, you have to live with your own decisions. And if that's something that you just really want to do, I can't stop you. So, and I generally don't like to talk about private servers on this podcast, but I did want to mention this here because a lot of people have made the comparison from what Blizzard could potentially do with a Classic Plus versus what Turtle WoW is doing with their server. And while I think that they've done they have a lot of great ideas with Turtle WoW, I won't deny that. I don't think that having a volunteer organization that runs a private server, that's not how I want to invest my time, because at any moment that could just go away. So, all right. I don't want to get too deeply into that one. At the end of the day, people who are playing Classic, if you're playing Classic and you're having fun and you're just like, man, I can't wait to get into Mists of Pandaria, I can't wait to get into Warlords and then Legion and whatnot, great. I'm happy for you. And I would love to see a comment from somebody who's saying, I want this in Classic WoW. I want Classic progression to continue. I don't care about Classic Plus. I don't like vanilla. I just want to continue on with all the expansions in order, do a year per. I want to hear from you, because to me, that's the people that I'm not even sure that there's a lot of them out there. So maybe there are a lot of people. I don't exactly have my finger on the pulse of the Classic community. I'm not Josh Corbett. I'm not Blazing Bob. So I don't know. I don't know what's out there. I don't know who likes what. It seems to me, just from looking at it, that a lot of people prefer Season of Discovery right now over Cataclysm. I don't know how that works. So anyway, yeah, let me know. Let me know one way or the other. Put a comment in the YouTube video. Send me a message. You can jump on our Discord. We can talk about it. I'll have all the links to the socials in the show notes. So please let me know, because I'm genuinely curious. I want to know what people really think of Cataclysm Classic right now. So, all right, that's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to get on this microphone and talk to you. So thank you for listening. It means so much to me. Again, thank you to Judge Omni, our first Patreon member. It's really kind of cool to see that. If you want to join the Patreon, I'll have the link to that in the show notes. There's a free option, and then we have a basic $1 membership and a $3 membership. Not a big deal. You can just jump on there. I'm not trying to make a bunch of money on this. It's just, there's costs associated with doing a podcast, and if you really like it, it'd be pretty cool to toss me like I said, a cup of coffee or whatever. But if you don't want to, that's okay, because Azeroth United will always be free, and I don't have any intention to put ads in the podcast either, as a lot of podcasts have had to do recently. I kind of like the podcast the way it is. So this is how it's going to be for now. If I ever decide to change my mind on that, I will let you know. But for now, I'm not planning to put ads. But overall, the podcast will always be free. It will always be available to you. You'll always be able to get it in some fashion or another without having to pay any money. So, all right. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm talking about now. The link tree will be in the show notes, but it's linktr.ee/Azeroth United. That'll have the Discord server, the Patreon, the Blue Sky, the Twitter account, all that, the YouTube channel, all that stuff. You can help us out by subscribing to YouTube, by leaving us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That really helps. You can send me a message if you want to just say, hey, you're doing a great job, or hey, you're doing a terrible job. You can send an email to the podcast. It's AzerothUnitedPod@gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Discord. If you want to just send me a message on Discord rather than joining the podcast Discord, that's fine too. However you want to get a hold of me, I'm happy to talk to people. Yeah, if you want to, if you want to talk, though, I'd say that YouTube comments are good, but maybe just send me a message. It'll probably work a little bit better. So, all right. Like I said, that's going to wrap it up for our show today. Thank you so much for listening, and remember to be good to each other out there. That's a real person on the other side of that keyboard, and you know what? Maybe they like Cataclysm Classic and you don't. So you just have to respect their decision and just accept that that's who they are, and that's the expansion that they want to live in forever. So, all right. Take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.